Yeah, welcome everyone. Just as a reminder, this is being recorded. And this is a big thank you all to joining us for our webinar about prescribed fire smoke management and using PFIRS, which is the Prescribed Fire Information Reporting System. This webinar is being hosted by Napa County Resource Conservation District, or RCD for short. We are a non-regulatory agency with the mission of helping community members care for the land, water, soil, and wildlife of Napa County. My name is Danielle Ashton, and I am a forestry project manager at Napa RCD and also a steering committee member for the Napa Prescribed Burn Association. And it's really exciting to see so many folks from different agencies and areas of the greater Bay Area. So thanks again for hopping on the call. Um, we're joined tonight by some really amazing professionals in the prescribed fire and air quality fields. I first would like to introduce all of our speakers. First off, our main presenter, Dennis Rain, who is a retired fire chief, currently working as a prescribed fire program manager for a local fire district in Contra Costa County. We're also joined by Carol Rice, who leads Wildland Resource Management, a wildland fire management consulting firm serving the greater Bay Area. And it's always a joy to work with Carol, so thank you. And we're excited to have Doug Nguyen on the calls. He is an air quality meteorologist with the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, so he's going to start us off tonight. And we will hear from him in just a bit. And last but not least, we have Ryan Isham on the call. He's a battalion chief at CAL FIRE LNU. He's a strong supporter and implementer of prescribed fire in our county and a key partner for the Napa PBA. So also real excited to have him. Thank you to our guest speakers. We look forward to learning from you all. Um, but before I totally pass it over to them, just want to cover some quick logistics. If you have any questions throughout tonight's session, please enter them into the chat box, which if you're on like a desktop is found in the bottom center of your Zoom screen. We'll do our best to answer questions as they come in and as we're able to. And given the amount of information that we're covering in tonight's session, we'll likely hold off until the end of the webinar to have folks unmute and ask questions and have a more conversation. Um, we will be saving questions from the chat box so that our team of experts can answer questions after the fact. And we'll most likely create an FAQ sheet kind of as a follow-up resource as well. So please ask any questions and we'll get to them. Lastly, just a quick reminder, this is a two-part webinar, so we hope to see you all at the second session on Thursday. I will follow up most likely early next week with a list of resources and links to these recordings so that you can feel free to share them throughout your networks and use them whenever you need them. And with that, I think we're ready to pass it off to Duck, who's going to introduce us to smoke management planning, that process with the Bay Area Air Quality District. All right, thanks, Duck.
Okay, thank you for that introduction. Just quick check on audio. Everything good?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. As mentioned, my name is Duc Nguyen. I'm with the Bay Area Air District. I do recognize a few of you on the call, so that's great. So tonight, I'm not going to take too much time because the meat of the presentation is really under Dennis Rain. That's going to provide you with more details in terms of what you need to do and how effectively submit the smoke management plan to the air district for review, and also ultimately just get some of those fires on the ground. So you have the slide information, so I'm not going to go into the details, but generally speaking, the Bay Area is divided into a 3 burn zone. Part of it is because the Bay Area is very complex in terms of topography. We do realize there's local winds and climatologies that impact that. But mainly we have the coast zone, the north zone, and the south zone. And if you live in the Bay Area, you know that there are nuance within each of those regions. For example, when you have a lot of winds coming down from the north under the offshore winds events, it may be very dangerous for fire versus along the coast. You could still get some onshore winds that could support some burning along the coast. Um, with that said, that's basically how we divide the burning to help assess some of that. Generally speaking, for projects, if you're thinking about your projects is at 10 acres in size or more, you will need a smoke management plan. And the slide does provide you a list of the common one, including, the forest management, range management, fires, and various other type of burn that is allowed. But using the 10 acres inside is pretty much your rule of thumb to decide whether you're going to submit a smoke management plan to the air district or not. Next slide, please. So we will send out this one-page instructions to kind of give you a guide of what to look for. But basically, before you can actually set fire on the ground, you need the smoke management plan that needs to be submitted to the air district. And we do require 30 days submittal just so that we can cover times when staffs are out for vacation, there's delay, there's also issues that needs to be addressed within the plan. But typically, we do turn around the SMP pretty short, and Dennis can probably be a good example for that. We can actually turn them around within 10 days, assuming your plan is complete. There's not much to edits in there. And then you may also have to secure a burn permit through your local fire agency and or CAL FIRE. And then once you get those two, those are actually the two biggest things before you can actually set fire on the ground. And then the next thing is really just to watch for the burn window. And assuming your fuel is ready, then you can actually go ahead and request ignition. So you can do that. And you have to do that by 9 a.m. the day before the plan burn. But technically, you don't have to wait until the day of. You can reach out to us through email or phone call. You can also go to PFIRS and initiate the request. So you plan for next week, you go into PFIRS and you initiate that. We know that you have the intention to burn. We're going to begin the process of reaching out to folks within the 96-hour burn window to give you a sense of whether the weather is going to be cooperating or not. If you need, just to talk to us to get a sense of what the weather are trending, whether it's warming up, whether it's, sometimes you like, I just want to get a sense of what's going on before I even initiate the request, because that date, as it become a reality, the weather may not cooperate anyway, so you're going to end up canceling it, or not be able to set the fire on the ground. So you can still contact us in that regard to really tackle the number 3 and number 4, right? And then the number 4 is basically once you request that, the weather is all good on the morning of, you get the authorizations from us. That's going to come directly from PFIRS email system. And that gives you the authority to actually go out and set the fire on the ground. And then once that's done, you want to go back to PFIRS and report the acreage allocation, whether how many acres you complete that day or for the project. Number 6 is basically an assessment of the projects. Once it is all completed, you may have 1-day burn, you could have multi-day burn projects, and that's needed for number 6. But essentially, these are just outline steps you need to conduct a burn within the Bay Area. Next slide, please. This is more details in terms of how the process for the smoke management plan approval. Again, everything is done inside PFIRS now. So you initiate the SMP inside PFIRS. You submit it to Air District. We review it. If there's items that need to be reviewed, we're going to return it. If not, we go ahead and process directly through and get that approved. And this is step 1 in the previous slide. So you have all these slides so you can take a look more in details later as needed. Next ones, please. And then this is more details on what you need to do once you want to get the burn window, and that's when you're actually going to be utilizing our forecasting services. And I mentioned about a 96-hour time window. But again, if you need a quick outlook, you can always reach out to the meteorology desk at 415-749-4915, or you can also email us forecast@baaqmd.gov, and then we're going to get back and give you a sense of whether the coming week is likely going to be favorable for burning, or maybe you should ship your burn window within 2 days just to kind of avoid the potential reductions in vertical mixing, or the winds may not become favorable because you're going to get this offshore wind period, that kind of thing. So it's really a service here that we provide in the Bay Area that may not be available in other parts of the state, to help you plan your projects. It's not a deterrent. The service is here to help burners to plan better for their projects. And I think that's it. Next slide. Yeah, and then this one is more like just some tips that I think may be useful for you when you use PFIRS systems. And you have this handy, so I'm not going to read them out, but generally speaking, you want to refer to this one because PFIRS is designed with a specific purpose in mind, and it will have issue. You will run into issue. So you may want to just refer to this kind of like, hey, I couldn't upload my map. What happened? I tried to edit my plan, but it didn't appear to save. Is there tips in there? So you want to refer to the slides, just get a sense of whether your problem can be easily fixed. If you cannot fix it, you can always reach out to me, one of my colleagues, and we'll be able to kind of assist you in from that. So with that, I'll pass it back.
All right, thanks, Duck. So just keep going, Danielle.
Take it away, Dennis.
Okie doke. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate everybody coming tonight. We'll try and keep this moving along. And what a great service Danielle is going to provide by editing this out and putting it on the YouTube channel. So when you're in the midst of working on your next smoke management plan and you're going to, what was that? You can go back and look at it. So not to repeat too much, but look, we should talk about what PFIRS is, and it's used by the Air Resources Board and the air quality management districts all over California to collect information for allowing and monitoring prescribed fire projects. I think it's to everyone's advantage to use the system because it gets data into the system, and hopefully will lead to more smart prescribed fires coming out. It allows us to submit a smoke management plan. In days gone by, all that was done sort of by email and fax and all those things, and it wasn't very efficient. This is a big step forward. Still not perfect, but it works a lot better than the old days. It allows you, as Duck said, to request an allocation of acreage or piles for a specific day. And just to reiterate what Duck said about don't be bashful about waiting till the last minute to do those allocations. If you know that you have a prescription window that looks like it's coming open, I'd say go ahead and submit, and you can always cancel it at the last minute for whatever reason. And there's a facility in PFIRS to do that. They send you online emails, online notifications and emails about your allocation in the morning, and allows you to report the status of your project. Once you put fire on the ground, you can go back and report how much you burned, what the success was of that, and if you need to cancel it, what the reasons were for that. So this is an interesting part about when do you need a smoke management plan. Well, I got all interested in that, and I looked up the California Code of Regulations, Title 17, And if you look at section 8160, it talks about the requirements for prescribed burning. And I won't go through the whole thing, but these 2 points at the bottom in section D, it says projects conducted near smoke sensitive sites or otherwise required by the district. The rule, but the 10-acre rule is absolutely a great one. But I'm from the East Bay, and pretty much any place we burn is likely to impact some kind of a smoke sensitive site. Once you do the first smoke management plan, the next one is easier, and the next one is easier, and the next one after that is even easier. So I think it never hurts, especially if you're burning for an agency or an organization, to maintain the reputation of that organization, to go ahead and just do the little bit of work to get a new smoke management plan in. And then if something does happen and there's an impact, you can go back and look at what that plan was and figure out how you make corrections later. What PFIRS isn't is it's not a permit application system. While you can submit your plan through PFIRS, you still need to obtain all the open burning permits required by your local fire agency. And that may be CAL FIRE if you're in state responsibility. It could be your local fire department. PFIRS is not a prescribed fire plan or prescription development tool. All that work needs to be done outside of PFIRS. And depending on what your requirements are to write a prescribed fire plan, there's a California approved prescribed fire plan, and then there's the National Wildfire Coordinating Group prescribed fire plan. Very different animals for simple burning, that if you need a plan, the California plan is much easier to navigate. It does allow you submitting a smoke management plan in PFIRS requires some basic prescription information, and that's used by the AQMD to determine the potential smoke impacts of your project. But it's not a final prescription for your project. So a smoke management plan, the plans that I write for prescribed fires, I include the smoke management plan as part of one of the appendix in that. Some other things that you may need, again, following the NWCG format, a complexity analysis you might need, which is a kind of a big Excel form that makes you look at and discuss all of the factors that may affect your prescribed fire. Fire behavior calculations, if you're going to do broadcast burning, environmental documentation, if you have CEQA requirements or NEPA requirements. And then when you go out to burn, the actual accounting for all of the resources that are going to be on that prescribed fire project and what their assignments are, and the medical plan and the safety plan and safety message, and all those things would be in an IAP or incident action plan. And then because we are prescribed burners, photo documentation is super valuable. I would suggest trying to get photos before you burn, while you're burning, and then at intervals after you burn. Those don't need to be part of your smoke management plan, but as far as keeping track of everything that we're doing and making some attempt to document the success of the project is always good. Well, here's all those documents. And while I have this slide up, the two photos of that say southeast elevation, there's a free application called SoLocator that does a really good job of using your iPhone to document, where you're taking the photo from, the direction you're shooting, the date, the time, the project, and all those things. So I think that's in Danielle's sheet that she's going to send out after this. So there can be a lot to it, or it can be fairly simple. Well, let's talk about PFIRS. First thing you need to do is get an account. So to do that, if you go to the arb.ca.gov/PFIRS/, you'll come to this page that you're looking at right now. And the little tab up at the top that says support, you want to click on that right there. And that'll take you to this page. And the little disclaimer at the top talks about, kind of what PFIRS is, and that it's meant for land management agencies. You want to apply for a land manager account. And so you click on that button right there. And that opens this page. And so you could fill in your information here. And then one of the disclaimers I'm going to say at the bottom of every page, there's this little submit button, the little green one that says press only once. So when you're ready to submit this, just press it once. It tends to lock the system up if you press it multiple times and do multiple entries. And sometimes the system right now doesn't react as quickly as you'd like. So that's a hint. Once you submit your request, it's reviewed and you should be notified via the email address you provided in the account request form. And I've had them turn around. Folks have told me in as little as 1 day and up to 7 days to get them. So it's a pretty quick turnaround. Again, the air districts are very supportive of prescribed burning, and we want to keep working with them and keep it that way. So things turn around very nicely. So once you have an account, you can go back to that same PFIRS start page, and you'll see this map. And some things I wanted to point out on the PFIRS front page. When you give your account, you'd enter your username and password up on top here. At the bottom, where that next orange arrow showed up, you can actually modify the map to show the counties. You can show the air districts, you can show webcams, and you can show current wildfires on there. So if I wanted to see, and these are all prescribed fires right now, I believe, the new orange arrow that's pointing there, if I wanted to see what was going on there, that was a project on April 2nd by North Coast Resource Management, and they were burning piles and the status was approved. And if I click on through these, there's another project on March 27th, Spring Mountain Vineyards. And then if I wanted to look at, this is one of my projects, this is some pile burning that we did on Flicker Ridge here in the East Bay. It actually, if I go project activity tab on that, it says when it was planned, when the project was approved, when it was active at 8:50 a.m. and completed a couple days later at 8:11 a.m. So to start your first smoke management plan, and the first one is always the most difficult. You need a bunch of information. You need to know who owns the land, the name of the person or agency, contact information, what the objectives are of the project, and those hopefully will be pretty obvious to you. Some project maps and documents, any CEQA documentation that doesn't necessarily need to be included with the smoke management plan, but if CEQA is required, you're going to need that before you can burn. A knowledge of smoke sensitive sites in the area, and I think Carol may have some information on that as we go through this. I know Danielle is working on a list of those, and Carol's been collaborating on that. Any fuels and fire behavior information, and then any other permits. And Ryan's going to talk about the CAL FIRE LE 62A 5 and 7.8 process here real quick in a minute. In fact, right now. Ryan, can you kind of enlighten us on what these just general forms are about?
Yeah, of course. So like Dennis said, we have 3 of these forms. Your first one is going to be the LE62A, which is going to be your residential burning permit. This is going to be typically for small piles, 4x4 in size or under. And what will happen is you can get to all 3 of these permits. If you go on to CAL FIRE permits on the internet, it'll bring you to a link to it. And as you fill out the LE62A, that one, on all these permits, you're going to put in your information for where you're burning, who will be the responsible party, things like that. And on the LE62A, it is just a web-based information that's given to you from the department. You'll have to check off at the end when you've watched the video informing you what the rules, regulations, and responsible burning looks like. Moving on to the LE5 is going to be the general burning. That's going to be for larger pile burnings, agricultural burnings, whether it's prunings, vineyards, things like that, hazard reduction projects. But that's going to be for piles greater than the 4x4. After that, you're going to get to the LE7, which is going to be the 7 and 8, which is going to be the broadcast burn. So once again, on both those two burns, you're going to submit a bunch of information. Obviously, you're going to be submitting a little bit more when it comes to the LE7. The LE7 is going to be the first one that actually requires a site visit from the fire department. So the LE5 is left up to the chief officer's discretion if they will come out and do a site inspection. What we come to find is a lot of times we have the same people burning in multiple locations, or the same property burning year after year. And we may choose to waive the site visit on that one because we've worked with this landowner in the past. We know that they're responsible. They know, what kind of site prep needs to be in place prior to it. And we can approve that based on our conversation and our comfort with the project. But either way, that'll have to be actually approved by a chief officer prior to you burning. And then the 7 and 8, no matter if this is somebody that we've worked with a bunch of times for several years, it'll still require a site visit. And what's going to happen is we're going to actually have to go out there, and we either have to check the perimeter of the proposed burn area at that point, or if it is in an area where we don't have connectivity, we will then go back at when we do have connectivity, and we will just kind of hand build the polygon off of our software to put it in there. But on those ones, we're going to be reviewing the burn plan that you guys have. We're going to be seeing what you have for, a backup plan, a contingency plan. And then on both the 5 and the 7, we are going to set the parameters of what weather conditions have to be in place to allow the burning.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
Thanks, Ryan. Okay, so now you've got another path to go down to get your SRA, a permit to burn an SRA, or with your local fire department. This is kind of the entry page. And so there's a couple of things here up in this upper left-hand corner. If you have a smoke management plan that's returned, it'll show up there. These are all your approved plans that are sitting in the system waiting to be burned. And then if there was an unplanned fire return, you would see that there. So to start a new smoke management plan, you click that button right there. You can retrieve an existing smoke management plan. So if you started a plan and you found out that you needed some more information that was going to take some more research, you could save it in the system and then come back and retrieve it later. Key button right here, copy an existing plan into a new one. Remember I said that once you have the first one written, the second one is easier and they get better and better. You can go back to that first plan and save it to a new name. And I think what you'll find as you're doing these is that a lot of the information, your objectives are probably going to be pretty similar. And a lot of the information is going to be very similar. So you can save an existing plan as a new plan and then use it for your subsequent plans. This is the button that you would use to request ignition. So a couple days before or a week before, if I'm looking at a prescription window out there, I would use this button to go through and reach out to the air district and say, hey, I'm thinking about burning on this day and this unit of this prescribed fire plan. And then once you're out burning, the update button allows you to access the system and let the district know through PFIRS that, yes, we actually did start the piles or start burning at this point. And then when that's out, when it's in patrol status and those kinds of things. And then you can share plans. So if you have collaborators on a project, or someone is asking to use one of your plans to build up their plan off of, you can share plans with other folks that already have PFIRS accounts. And then if there's if you get into trouble, there's always the user's manual, and it's a large file. You can download it and keep it for later reference. And then when you're all done in the system, you use the log out button to get out. But let's go back and look at building a new smoke management plan. So when I click that start a new plan, it's going to ask me for a name of the plan, and this opens in a new window. Ask me for a name of the new plan I want to build. Ask me which air district it is in, and so you can use the map that Duck provided to figure out if you're in the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. Then you click the continue button here, and it takes you to this. And this is really kind of the meat of your smoke management plan. Let me go back one. All of these buttons on the kind of the upper left-hand side, the general information, project description, all of those are different sections of the plan that you need to submit information into. So when I click on one of those, the general information, when it opens this window, and it really is pretty simple: who's responsible, who the landowner is, the landowner's mailing address, a field contact, and that's someone who's going to be out there during the burn, and that field contact's contact number, their pager or phone number. And then again, I'll probably say this about 6 times during this presentation. Don't forget to save it as you exit that window. And once it's saved, you get a little message at the top right above where it says general information that says something like your information has been saved. You're okay to close this window now. So here's a tip and a quick story is we had a project that we were going out to burn piles, and we had a crew coming out of 15 people in a crew bus. And they launched to come out to help us burn piles. And we found out and so they leave early in the morning because they had about an hour drive to get here. They leave early in the morning, and we found out that there was some anomaly in the weather, and our project got canceled. The person who had filled in the field contact name was on vacation. And so that crew drove all the way out to the project side with 10 or 15 people in the bus. And they were told that at that time they found out that the project had to be postponed. So this field contact name, one of Duck's great tips to me was that it's just a text field, so you can put multiple names in there, and you can also put multiple contact phone numbers in the one below. It's like a string. So you could put Dennis Rain, comma, Carol Rice, comma, Danielle Bell, comma, and then put those phone numbers below. So if somebody's not available and they can't get a hold of them from the district, the air district, they can call other people on that list. So that would save a lot of time if something has to be postponed. Okay, so I pushed the save button under general information, and now I'm in project description, description of the objectives of the project. What is it you're actually trying to accomplish? And it can be, a bullet list, anything that gives the district some idea of what success looks like for you. What the burn schedule. When do you want to burn? So if I'm submitting this today, I would, want to reach out at least a couple of weeks to start my burn day, because the district, if under great conditions, you can get these back in a couple of weeks, but the district requires 30 days to get them. You can have up to a 1-year window, and I would say always try and take advantage of that. So if it's going to be Tuesday, the 10th of June, 2025, I would say make it till Tuesday, the 10th of June, 2026, or the 9th of June, 2026. And then if something goes wrong or something comes up and you can't burn, at least you don't have to do resubmit another smoke management plan or do another whole plan. So just as a general rule, I try and make all the ones that I do good for a year. Hopefully I get them done sooner, but if not, they're in the system for next year. As far as ignition and start times, 10 a.m. is a good time to start. By then the inversion is starting to lift, and you should be in pretty good condition there. You want to try and be done by 5 p.m. It's a reasonable window. They ask you for the duration, so the ignition generally, I say takes about an hour, might be 2, depending on the complexity of the project. at 5 hours of combustion and 2 hours of burn down. So it totals about 8 hours of burning. And again, at the bottom of the page, I'm going to hit the save button, and that'll give me that little, I saved your information. You're okay to go to the next one. And that'll put us into the burn blocks. And this is where it gets a little tricky here, but not undoable. So it asks you to enter the number of burn blocks that you want to add, and those are kind of project areas. So if you had a smoke management plan or a burn plan that you're writing that had multiple broadcast burn units, you would click that number of burn units. Or if you have piles that are spread out over a larger area, that are going to be in kind of different geographic locations, you could actually do that too. So you put that number in there, and that opens this page. And this is so there's two different pages, and here at the top you can see where hand piles is clicked. And those are all the choices that you have for the type of burn that you're going to do. The yellow highlighted boxes, it took me a long time to sort of get smarter than this form and figure out an easy way to do this. And I'm not saying that's the only way to do it, but what I found is using a tool like Google Earth Pro, again, a free application that you can download and use their mapping features to do a whole bunch of things. And I'll walk you through that real quick. So right now we're just going to focus on filling in the latitude, longitude, mean elevation, and how many acres that we have. And so this is an example of, one prescribed fire smoke management plan with a bunch of different units in it. Oh, another good point is once you have them all entered with that latitude, longitude, they should show up on the map. And I got a call. It was actually, I requested a spot weather forecast, and the meteorologist from National Weather Service called me and said, "Hey, are you burning in the middle of the Pacific Ocean tomorrow? Because that's where your project shows on our map." So if you click this View Map button, it will locate all of your projects, all of the burn units on a map. And so this is that Flicker Ridge project, and those are all of the burn units that lay out there. It doesn't give you the polygon, but it gives you a location. And the B is for understory burn, and the P is for piles, I believe. So here's my little quick spiel on Google Earth Pro. Again, it's free and it works really well. Once you have the app on your machine, it needs the internet, but you can basically get a view of the Earth. And I use the Google Earth toolbar to do a couple of things here. This is that project, one of the units in the project that I just showed you. So you can go to Google Earth. It gives you a view like this. You can actually draw the polygons on the map. And when you do that, like all those red dots are that Segura Te Unit 1. It gives you a bunch of information. It opens a little box in the lower right-hand corner. You can change the units there, but what I'm interested in is that it's 6.5 acres. What I do is you name that polygon. And so that one is named 2025 Segura Te Unit 1 6.5 acres. And that's valuable information. It won't show on the map. The little flaming thing is a separate thing that we'll look at right now. And that's the polygon tool that the arrow is pointing to now. That's the box with all the good information in it. So the next thing I do is I use the little, I guess it's a point tool. It leaves a map marker on there, and you can choose what style you want. I choose the little flame thing for my prescribed fire things. If I click on that, I put that little box in the middle of the polygon that I'm going to burn. And then I take, cut and paste from the polygon title that I've named 2025 Segura Te Unit 1 6.5 acres. I paste that into the name of this little map marker, and it gives me the same information, but that does show on the map. And what's cool here is it also shows the latitude and longitude of that point. So that's the information that I need for my smoke management plan. And I cut and paste that because trying to transcribe 37.83, whatever that is, into that little box on the smoke management plan, I inevitably make a mistake there. So I just cut and paste it into the smoke management plan box, and then I have the latitude and longitude from right there. And then I look at the map once that's closed, and at the bottom I put my cursor in the middle of that polygon, and at the bottom it tells me that the elevation where the cursor is 1,013 feet. So that takes care of lat, long, elevation, and acres all in one easy step. That trying to figure that out from topo maps would be difficult. And so that information goes in those top boxes. I have to tell it what kind of piles I'm burning. And then I put in for here how many piles I'm burning. So it asks you to click the little box over here, the little blue box to the left of the pile size that's 5 feet diameter, 4 feet high. Say I've got 25 of those. I've got 25 10 feet by 6 feet, and I've got 25 that are 20 by 10 feet. And then at the bottom, it totals all that up. It gives me a total tonnage that I'm burning and a total PM10 emissions in tons. And then again, at the bottom, don't forget to hit save. I'm going to turn this part over to Carol. She's going to talk about the fuel models, and this is if you're going to burn understory burning. So Carol, you're up.
Thank you so much, Dennis. This is great. So air quality specialists have determined that different types of vegetation burn with more or less efficient combustion. So when you have less combustion, less complete combustion, you create more particulate matters. And so each vegetation type has a different emission factor on the right-hand side. So for example, deciduous hardwoods have the lowest emission factor at 0.003 tons per acre. Mixed conifers a little higher, and shrubs are the highest at 0.009. So the Bay Area Air Quality Management District has selected these different kinds of vegetation types to choose from. So you get to choose which is your vegetation type that you're burning from this selection. But the form wants to know not only how many acres of each vegetation type, but how many tons per acre you're going to burn in each of the vegetation types. So next slide, Dennis. And you do that by choosing, there you go. You choose that by, you know that by choosing a fuel model for the vegetation types. So there are two versions of standard fuel models you can choose from, each that give you that total fuel loading per acre. And here is a lookup table of the fuel loading for each of the vegetation types that you might be likely to burn. The fuel loading in both the old standard 13 fuel models and the newer Scott and Bergen, both of them are okay, and both of them are valid. So it's okay to pick the one with the lower fuel volume. And you'll see that except for hardwoods, the Scott and Bergen fuel volumes tend to be a little bit lower. So what you do with this information is you enter the fuel loading into the form on the previous page, and it will calculate the total emissions for the burn based on the percent consumption, which that part is hardwired, the size of the burn, and the fuel volume for each type of the vegetation in the burn. Next slide. Thanks, Dennis. And so here's just an example that the fuel volume is actually a pretty impressive thing to note, because you may be burning less than a ton per acre, or you may be burning more than 3 tons per acre, even in one vegetation type.